Hello, this is Sarah Brash. Welcome back to my channel. So I want to do, I'm getting a little sleepy, but I want to kick out a couple more videos. So I'm going to try to keep them shorter. But I want to do a video about Shaun and the appeal, and how they're really the one and the same entity, and how they're both evil and they're both huge leaders in the Black trauma moral outrage industry. So Shaun is that Twitter activist, or photivist, as I like to call him. So he's basically a race hustler on Twitter. He has millions of followers at this point, I think, but he's been dragged left and right to kingdom come by woke intersectional feminists on Twitter, because for being a race hustler, for being a grifter, for exploiting the work of Black women, for making false accusations, for, basically taking money that he's making off of Black trauma and Black pain and the killings of Black men and women, and using that to, aggrandize himself, to, for his own wealth and gain. And he has no real desire to do anything to actually help Black people in the US. He couldn't care less. So that's Shaun. I think maybe about a year or two ago, he actually falsely accused someone of having murdered a little girl. I have evidence based on his own tweets that he was complicit in the Living or Not Being Well Black hate crime hoax at Yale. Completely complicit. This is also why I am pursuing the enforcement of my FERPA request for Yale's internal emails, so that I can prove this, prove the complicity of Shaun in the Living or Not Being Well Black hate crime hoax at Yale. I have evidence from his own tweets, which I've recorded, archived, of course, that he was communicating with Lolata Siambola and Jean-Louis Renison at Yale before May 8th, 2018, before the Living or Not Being Well Black hate crime hoax at Yale. I believe he instructed them. He helped instruct them, along with the Yale administration, on what to do, how to record me, etc., etc., etc. He helped them distribute it. He distributed it immediately. The second, I didn't even know that I had been filmed. I had no idea that I had been filmed. And he distributed it basically the second after Lolata Siambola illegally filmed me on May 8th, 2018, standing in the threshold of my own isolated Yale dorm room in the middle of the night, or in the early hours of the morning, rather. And so that's who Shaun is. He's sick, he's evil, he's a race hustler, he's a grifter, he's an ambulance chaser, he's a liar, he's a lying bigot and a fraud, he's a charlatan, he's the worst of the worst, he's the dregs of humanity. He's just basically an evil demon. That's Shaun. And I'm not the only one who hates him. At this point, I think everyone hates him. He was a Bernie surrogate. I don't even know why people still follow him. I don't even know why people still support him. Even the Black women who are woke intersectional feminists on Twitter hate him now and drag him left and right to kingdom come, including Imani Gandhi, who goes by Angry Black Lady, and she actually followed me, retweeted me before the Living or Not Being Well Black hate crime hoax at Yale, and then of course she, threw me under the bus thereafter. But she absolutely abhors Shaun and drags him to kingdom come left and right on Twitter. So anyway, that's who Shaun is. So, and I believe he came out of the Young Turks, and the Young Turks are also complete charlatans. I need to do a YouTube video about them. But anyway, so that's Shaun. So the appeal is, well, I should start by saying that I didn't really know who the appeal was. I just knew that they were this organization that deals a lot with racism and policing, police brutality, implicit bias, etc. And that I knew that I was being repeatedly mobbed to suicide by their president, Josie Duffy Rice, by other affiliates, including Rebecca Kavanaugh, who's a licensed attorney who practices in New York State. And she was working with Kristen Clark, the head of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, and they were trying to destroy my life and get me disbarred and get me expelled and destroy my reputation and livelihood and drive me to suicide and destroy my human and civil rights academic and legal careers. So, and then also there was a particular episode, and Oliver Traldi on Twitter was defending me because he actually knows Josie Duffy Rice from law school. I don't remember which law school, but anyway, so Josie Duffy Rice in particular, this was relatively recent, I think maybe like a year ago. She was trying to mob me to suicide, and she got that really horrible, evil person, Tennille, involved, who's also affiliated with the appeal, and Rebecca Kavanaugh was involved, of course, and also Patricia Arquette became involved, and some other blue check marks. So me and my followers were begging them to stop and saying, please stop. Sarah's on the suicide hotline right now. You're driving her to suicide. She has suicide in her family. She has trauma in her backstory, and she has mental health disabilities, and you're driving her to suicide. She's literally on the hotline right now. Please stop mobbing her. And so the appeal affiliates, including President Josie Duffy Rice and along with Patricia Arquette, they were laughing. They thought that this was hysterically funny, and they were cracking jokes about how it's fine if I kill myself because my life is worthless because I don't have a blue check mark on Twitter, and they just thought it was absolutely hysterical that I was gonna kill myself. So they were definitely trying to destroy me and drive me to suicide and incite my murder. So anyway, so that's how I knew the appeal. I'd never known about them before then. So recently, I did a video on this, but Josie Duffy Rice, the president of the appeal, because I've been exposing her as a lying bigot and fraud, and I've also been exposing the ACLU for their complicity in the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax and the subsequent global vilification campaign against me. So the new president of the ACLU, Deborah Archer, teamed up with Josie Duffy Rice, the president of the appeal. And as the new president of the ACLU, the very first thing that she thought was the most important thing for her to do was to try to team up with Josie Duffy Rice of the appeal and try to drive me to suicide on Twitter. That literally happened. I archived everything. That literally happened. She thought that was the most important first task as the new president of the ACLU. She needed to drive Sarah Brush to suicide on Twitter. I've done another video on that. But anyway, so that's what I knew of the appeal. So relatively recently, and this is something that I've called out before, the whole idea that there's this moral outrage industry, and people are profiting off of, in particular, Black trauma, Black death, the killings of Black men, exploiting the killings of Black men to destroy Living While Black by turning it into a race hoax and a blood sport, targeting vulnerable white women with mental health disabilities for moral outrage industry money. So this is something that I've been calling out for a very long time, since May 2018. So anyway, so Gretchen Mullen, my guardian angel on Twitter, who goes by Skeptic Review 89, so she pointed out to me this anonymous Medium essay, and it speaks about Shaun Cain, and it speaks about the appeal, and it speaks about their whole backstory, and it speaks about Josie Duffy Rice, the president, and it's anonymous, and I don't I haven't verified the claims therein, but it was being discussed seriously by a number of very well-respected U.S. Black social justice activists, including Ashley Yates, who goes by Brown Blaze, who's someone who has repeatedly called out Shaun Cain, and I believe Shaun Cain actually and her got into quite an altercation. I believe that Shaun Cain even threatened her with legal action. I don't remember exactly what happened, but she is a U.S. Black social justice activist who does the real work and who is sick and tired of the Black trauma moral outrage industry and the grifters and the race hustlers. And so she calls them out consistently, and I just think that that's wonderful. I think that's so good. And there was one other in particular well-respected U.S. Black social justice activist who goes by Dope Girl Fresh on Twitter, who was also discussing this anonymous Medium essay. So basically, in this Medium essay, which to me seems really legit, I believe its claims. Is that basically Shaun Cain and the Appeal are one and the same entity, and that all of these affiliates, including Josie Duffy Rice, the president of the Appeal, can just go ahead and post on Shaun Cain's Twitter. And this makes so much, when I saw this, it made so much sense to me. I was like, of course, Shaun Cain and the Appeal are basically the one and the same entity. Of course they are, because that's why it was so important to Josie Duffy Rice, president of the Appeal, to mob me to suicide, to get me killed. That's why it was so important to her. And to the other affiliates of the Appeal, including Rebecca Kavanaugh and Tennille, and there were other blue check marks who were repeatedly trying to mob me to suicide and destroy and discredit me. So, of course, because I revealed the complicity of Shaun Cain in the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale. So of course, Josie Duffy Rice, the president of the Appeal, and the other affiliates of the Appeal were repeatedly trying to mob me to suicide. So I don't want this video to get too much longer, so I'm going to wrap it up. But I just wanted to close by saying that I'm going to do a lot more videos about the Black trauma moral outrage industry, because I'm sick of it. And I'm so grateful to Gretchen Mullen to make me aware of some well-respected U.S. Black social justice activists who are actually calling out these race hustlers who are profiting from Black trauma and from the killings of Black men by the police and women. So anyway, so I have a lot more to say about that, but I will wrap it up here. I'll put all of my fundraising links below. Please donate to my legal fund so that we can restore due process and equal protection at Yale and Smith College and everywhere. All right, have a great night. I love you so much. Bye.